It's okay, it's not as popular as the other Node ones. But it's basically a port of that as a middleware. So I'm going to be moving all my stuff over to this, so I can take advantage of all the other libraries. PubSub, I'm using in the demo, is a publish subscribe. And right now it's just a long poll implementation, but we can add sockets to it later. The browser just says, I want to listen for events on this thing. And the browser says, I want to push events to this thing. And whenever it pushes, everyone else who's listening gets the event. It's all handled for you. Cache manifest, if you want to make your app run offline, just say, use the cache manifest at this path, and it'll automatically scan your static assets, generate the cache manifest file for you, put the timestamp comment at the top, and all those things we just learned about an hour ago. It does it all for you, auto-generated. It's awesome. Direct is, that's actually a thing that my work does. It's a type of RPC. And then we also have JSON RPC for a plainer, more standards compliant one. And then other providers. So as you see, there's going to be a lot of stuff built in this. And the goal is not to sell a product I'm using at work. My goal is to give the Node community a foundation to build upon. One of the hardest things in Node right now is there's a huge fragmentation in the library side. Node itself is starting to stabilize. The APIs haven't changed much in the last few months. And a few months is a very long time for Node. It used to change majorly every couple weeks. I mean, if you didn't update your code monthly, there was no chance anyone could use it. But Node's stable now. Now, the libraries are another story. So I'm hoping that this, or something like this, can evolve, and we can start building libraries that interact with each other. Okay, so that's the back end of a mobile app. What about the front end? I'm not as much an expert in this area, so I cheated and went the easy route. One of my colleagues at work is Dimitri, and he made Raphael.js. Who's heard of that? Okay, a lot more, see? So, Raphael, small JavaScript library that should simplify your work with vector graphics on the web. And it really is a great little library. But one of the cool features that it has built in the latest version is multi-touch on the iPad. So, right here, we won't look at this video, we'll do our own. But he put up a video of the multi-touch on the iPad where you just move these dots around. So, it's pretty cool. And it's like, well, let's look at the code. I got the code. So, in Raphael, you create a canvas type thing, create a few circles of various positions and sizes, and then there's 3 functions here, start, move, and up. So these are callbacks for the drag events. So on start, you store it, shrink it, change the opacity. On move, you update the position. On up, you do some more animation. I mean, it's really straightforward. Really, I mean, this is pretty easy to understand. And then, of course, you just add a drag event, pass in the callbacks, and there you go. You got drag and drop circles. And works in Internet Explorer through VML, works in most browsers through SVG, and works in Apple products through SVG and multi-touch. Doesn't work yet in Android, but I think that's coming, because Android only supports Canvas as far as I know. And then I had slides of it bigger, but I think that last one was big enough. Does anyone want to look at the code any closer? With left half chopped off. So yeah, again, this is with a little more detail, creating the circles, adding some style. And then we got the 3 events and doing the drag. So, let's combine the 2. This is actually my little kid playing with some marbles, but he likes stacking them and sorting them. So we got the back end, we got the front end. Let's put them together. So, what this is going to do is this demo is going to show serving static assets, because it serves, the stuff for the client side, some live interaction using publish subscribe. It's going to show some various performance tweaks with the middleware. It's got gzipping on the fly, it's got caching, it's got conditional get, it's got cache manifest. And actually, it's quite tricky if you're trying to develop it with the cache manifest on. It'll trick you. Your server will be off. You'll be hitting refresh, and the page will keep loading. But none of your changes are taking effect. So be warned. And then just the logger filter. So it logs everything in Apache-style logs. So here's the Node code using this framework I was talking about. So I forget, how many people here have used Node before? Okay, so a few. So I won't go through too many details of this. Basically, we're setting up require paths so the library's there. loading it, doing some configs, and a stack of our framework. We want logging, body decoding, pub sub. Now the order matters. So the pub sub's near the top because I don't want it to go through the caching and gzipping for my pub sub because I use it kind of like RPC. You don't want that cached. You want that always live. Yet the static's at the very bottom. You want that to go through the caching, the gzipping, and everything. Because especially if you're on a slow network, sometimes these JavaScript files can get really big when you write thick JavaScript apps, and it'll save you a ton of bandwidth. So here's the logic specific to this thing. It's really simple, basically just echoes out what it's given. So PubSub interface has 3 methods. You need subscribe, unsubscribe, and publish. And all I'm doing here is just storing them in an array and then pushing the messages to everyone in the array. So it's just a straight broadcast, nothing fancy. But seeing that you have these, you can do anything you want. You can, based on some ID passed in, filter it to only certain people. You can implement all sorts of stuff. And then here's just part of the index. I got a few Apple-specific things, so it looks pretty on the iPad. Load Raphael, load my client, and then, yeah, that's the app. Nice and simple. Alright, so it's time for a demo. Now, let's see if it works. Okay, so right here, can you see that on top? No, you can't at all. There, how about that? The website localhost is asked to store data for offline use. I'm guessing Firefox is doing that because of the cache manifest. Chrome doesn't do that. So we can say, okay, allow. Now, this is just circles. This is the code we were looking at. I just move. Nothing fancy, right? The server that's running this, I'll start it over so you can see. I just do connect to start. And start the server, defaults port 3000 unless you say otherwise. Let's go back and refresh the browser. I think cache manifest is biting me. Alright, what if we do that? Alright, so we got a hit. So you see it's logging it in Apache style logs. And what happens when I move one of these circles? Check that out. It did a bunch of post to stream, which is my PubSub hook. Now, let's open the iPad and hope this works. So we got the kind of same interface here. I'm going to move one of these. Alright, you see it's sending all sorts of requests. And now, if I can get them to communicate with each other, yeah, my desktop one seems to be in offline mode. Does anyone know how to disable cache manifest? We had to talk about this earlier. Well, I can cheat. Port 4000. It's a different domain. Look at there. And then I'm going to go modify my HTML file to not serve that manifest header. And I think that should effectively break it. Alright, so let's refresh that. Okay, I got a bunch of requests on the server. Good, so that's working. Let's move one. Okay, I got a bunch more. Alright. Now the iPad needs to be on the same server, so let's move it to port 4000. Now I'm moving that. Okay. Beautiful. Alright, we got it. So, I move the dots on the iPad, and it pushes the events to the browser. So if anybody wants to, go to my IP. It's 192.168.0.218, port 4000. Let's see if we can overload this poor thing. Yeah, it's 192.168.0, 192.168.0.218.